Welcome to today's episode, the podcast where we discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. It is Tuesday, May 19th, and since I expect this to be one of the easiest episodes we discussed this year, let's just dive into it. Punisher One Last Kill. It's a 40-minute television special, an episode, an event, whatever you want to call it. It's part of Phase 6 of the MCU.
What have you thought about Punisher so far in Phase 6?
The honest thing that I have to bring to this is that I am the most average Punisher fan that you can find. Like, I remember the overall gist of the character, and I did watch most of the Netflix series. I saw the first season of Daredevil Born Again, but like when it comes down to Frank Castle facts, I'm not like an expert.
Well, but I'm talking more just about what your overall thoughts has been about him because I
I know.
remember.
I just want to give people that understanding going in. I'm not going to be because okay. So my notes here are less about the episode and more about like just a compilation of observation. Like I have thoughts on Punisher One Last Kill, starting with what the hell is up with the title? Because One Last Kill implies that the Punisher is going after one dude or
Mhm.
lady for the entire episode, which he is, but it's like that's it. Like he's retiring afterwards. And that is not the way they even started the thing. They started with him wanting to commit suicide. Like it takes a while before he's even cajoled into fighting back
Yeah,
in the New
at
York
least
City.
halfway through.
Right. And then by the end, he's coming out of retirement just to kill everybody. It was never about just one person. In fact, it almost is like it's written from the point of view of the person who killed the dog at the very beginning. Because that person did have one last kill. It was that dog, and then he's dead by the end of it.
Well,
What's up with the title?
that was my question too because One Last Kill seems also like it might be Jon Bernthal's like final project, but it's already been widely reported that he's going to be in Spider-Man Brand New Day.
Well,
So
I didn't know that, so I guess it's news to me. But my main thing is I think this studio is just like it sounds cool. You you know? Okay, so do you say Jon Bernthal or Barenthal?
Bernthal, but I think it's Bernthal, right?
I don't think it has one. I think it's a Berenstein Bears effect. Because he's part of the Bears. Okay, that was a bad joke. All right, Jon Bernthal is back. He's growlier than ever. In fact, in this, he reminds me a lot of the Rock Man from Neverending Story. You know, where he's talking like this the whole time.
He sounded like an ape whenever he does this
Yeah,
like big growl
he has
or
a
anything like
Tarzan,
that.
like he's gonna beat his chest. He's gonna Donkey Kong style run after people. Discount John Wick. That's how he kind of appears to me. Hardcore Frankie would have been another title I would have accepted. Punisher Gary, and then Punisher One Last Terminal List. All of those would have probably fit the title a little bit more.
The working title for it was Jolly Roger, but
I
it
like that.
seemed like it was almost a mix of a lot of different places. More like Banshee with the
Yes.
fight scene, Crank without the comedy. I had John Wick there too.
A lot of
District
stunt level, like that being the leading factor.
very
Yeah.
much District B13, The Raid, and then like those people that you were mentioning at the beginning, those like group of teens that kill the dog were like a new version of A Clockwork Orange, and then I felt like the place that they
New
were.
York City has gone to shit.
Little Sicily specifically is where they are, and that's why it
They're in
reminded
Little
me.
Little
Yeah, Little Sicily, and it reminded me of so much of
So
Looper. That was the
how
name.
close is Little Sicily to Hell's Kitchen?
Well, I think it's in New York, but I'm not. Little Sicily doesn't actually exist. Like it's not an actual
Oh,
place.
okay.
It's just
I get
where.
it.
Yeah, it's just where the
So like
Punisher is.
Chinatown and Little Sicily,
Mhm.
where all the Italians are hanging out. MCU characters, they tend to hold their emotions on their sleeves. We've seen Wanda go crazy when her kids died.
Yep.
I mean, don't get those two in a room together because John Barenthal's Frank being obsessed with trying to get like his like life back together. If he found out that there was an option where he could go to another universe and get his kids back, boy, him and Wanda together that would be crazy. Okay, yeah, but like Hulk is mad, Frank is sad. We know all about that, but I don't know when this takes place
This takes. Yeah. Okay.
because it could have been during the intervening years between the Netflix series and Daredevil Born Again, and I would have believed you. It could also be the most recent segment in Frank's life, but at the same time, it's like when we last saw him in Daredevil Born Again, he did yell and he did
Mhm.
get mad, but like it didn't seem like he was this far out of it. Like,
Yeah.
he wasn't at this level in his mindset. Like, this guy is deranged. He is holding on by a wire. He does not give a fuck. He's suicidal. Yeah, yeah.
I
So
know it takes place in the year 2027, and although it hasn't been 100% confirmed, the general consensus is that this takes place during the events of Daredevil Born Again Season 2. There have been some places that say it takes place a little bit before, a little bit after, but like that's really when it's supposed to be.
and I get it's a special, so you're not gonna see Charlie Cox or Ben Barnes, from season 1 or, like, it's just him.
Yeah.
He's the central guy, and the story is so formulaically, like, this is obvious that's why I don't feel like we need to get into it too much, but it's like one of his victims comes out of the woodwork, puts a bounty on his head. He has to defend himself from every single killer that's out there who comes to his hotel. He saves some people by the end, and then he decides to go back to punishing.
Yeah.
Because throughout that whole thing, he's like, I don't want to be the Punisher anymore. I just want to be a sad dude who grieves.
It
Um,
doesn't go by, like, the traditional, the like, 3-act structure. Like, I agree with you, it is predictable, but, like, it suddenly turns into that one action scene for,
It
like,
takes a while,
the
but I
yeah.
do think it goes 3 acts. The first act being that when it's introduced that he is going to have to fight to survive, and then the fight, and then the final conclusion that he decides to go back to work. Like, it follows the same, view of any story, but it's just John Wick 3, where all the assassins are out to get him all at once, and you have to think there's, like, roids in the water at this point because this is a world filled with superheroes, and you still have these gang dudes who have no superpowers of their own, don't seem to have any fear whatsoever in just attacking and dying like
That
constantly.
was
And that's,
kinda yeah,
I
my
mean, part of that's just because the city is in such bad shape. There are no police. And so, like, everyone's desperate. But that makes it even sadder because it's like then you're killing people who have been forced into a situation that, like, you want to blame society a little bit more for than just the individual. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I guess I was just left after the special kind of confused because I didn't really feel like, and maybe we might differ on this, that Frank actually did go through any type of change. Sure,
Absolutely
he's not
not.
he's not as suicidal as he was at the beginning of the special, but it's like there was nothing here where it felt like
He saved one kid.
yeah. And then suddenly he's fully embracing the Punisher persona again. I was just like, did we really need a special for that?
Now that kid was the kid of Bubbles from The Wire. It was really cool to see Bubbles from The Wire. He's pulled his life together. He has a family. He has a coffee shop of his own. This is a terrible place to have a coffee shop, Little Sicily. But it's almost worse. It is worse than West Baltimore, where he was at
Mhm.
before. And The Wire did not make that place seem very great to begin with. So yeah, but it was his daughter who ends up, I think, convincing Frank that there is reason to live. We've seen that before. I mean, he's had plenty of other reasons, to live. He's haunted by ghosts,
Right.
throughout this whole time. Kurt, his wife, his daughter, his son, and, of course, Karen. Now
Yeah.
2 of those, I don't even know if they're actually dead. Like, is Kurt dead?
Not from what we've seen. He made it out both
Then
seasons
why
alive.
is he's schizophrenic. He's
Yeah.
having delusions then. It's not just ghosts haunting him. And the last we saw in Netflix's Daredevil, he would go to, like, VA PTSD, therapy treatment.
Yeah.
In this, he seems like he needs to go back to
I
therapy.
mean, that's what the full first season of The Punisher was about. I remember the finale is that he finally started opening up to those people that he was having those talks with.
Yeah, it
And
was that and Marvel's hatred of walls. Like, Wonder Man, this in this season, and also when he was, like, sledgehammering it
yeah.
back in, like, the first 2 seasons of the Netflix show, they are abusive to the walls because they can't do it to people, you know? It's like Disney is like, "If you can do it against an inanimate object, then you can show your anger." But,
Probably
like,
why he punched the
they need
mirror
a
at the beginning.
PETA for walls because at this point, it just seems like none of them are safe.
I did like, though, some references, like Frank's murder board that we saw that he was putting together in Daredevil Born Again when he ripped it down at the beginning. I did kind of like that
See, this is
scene.
the parts where, like, you have a better memory about it. As an average fan, I just remember he's angry.
Well, there was also you probably remember the quick shot of the Carousel, which was where they had the fight with,
Ben
Bill
Barnes.
Russo, yeah, Billy
Yes,
Russo in the season 1 finale.
I do remember
I
that.
also did like I pointed out when it happened, but Frank Stoddard holding the book that he quotes from.
Right, so, like, that's another reference where it's like, you heard the book line, the penny something,
Penny Dime, yeah.
"In for a penny, in for a pound." That's what he keeps saying.
Well, the
Yeah,
Penny and Dime is the name of the 4th episode of season 2, and he sits at the graveyard exactly like he does at that
thank you.
graveyard in
I
Daredevil.
appreciate those type of little nods and stuff. I really do. So I'm not just like completely shitting on the show. In fact, I also enjoy just watching it. It's just more all these kind of residual questions I have about it, and kind of the funniness of like instead of saving the cat at the very beginning, we see a character just straight out kill a dog. Take this guy's
I
dog and throw it in front of a bus.
So they didn't show it because you just see him pick it up and then the garbage truck go by, but I didn't even really realize what happened until we saw the owner's, reaction to it and just, like,
Yeah,
torn
no,
apart.
it seemed pretty obvious to me what was happening, and I just was like, "Wow, that's" so it takes place in, like, broad daylight,
Uh-huh.
which is a little different for Punisher series. Most of the time, it's all nighttime stuff, and same with Daredevil.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was different as well. And then you have him just, like, frequenting around, and much unlike the character we've gotten to know, he does not intervene whenever there's, like, people blowing up stuff in the background or stealing or committing crimes, freaking out. He sees the cops like running away because they're just not in that district. It reminded me a lot of the protests, that like the footage of the protests from like over the years. The like
Oh, yeah.
instead of seeing cars on fire, like Waymo's on
Yeah.
fire, it was just regular cars. But just I feel like it was trying to draw some sort of comparison to reality that way.
And it just yeah, it showed the complete difference. Oh, well, and I agree with you because, like, even Daredevil Born Again had Wilson Fisk kind of being like a Trump-like figure in season
Uh-huh.
1, so I know that MCU has liked to do that, but I think it was also just showing the complete difference. Because if you look at season 2 of Daredevil, it was like the Punisher sometimes intervened when he didn't even have to. I remember, like, he ended up, like, hitting a pedophile over the head in, like, episode 3,
He
and it
seemed
was
more
just kinda
grounded
thrown in
a
there.
little bit.
Right, in
Again,
here
he's deranged here. I would say that it's also a little odd because I remember at the beginning of Born Again, the showrunner was like, "We're gonna have a little less navel gazing going
mhm.
on." And it was like, "Well, we're gonna put that all into Frank's character
Well,
because
you
he's going to be staring at his own navel for a good 30% of this episode, until shit hits the fan."
You know what the story is with that though, right? They were going to bring back Jon Bernthal, and then he, much like Charlie Cox, hated the new direction they were
Oh,
taking
because they
with
were
his
taking it
character.
lighter.
Right,
Right.
and so he ended up walking away, and then when they did that mass overhaul, they brought in a producer and writer of The Punisher to show on the first season, and then that's what decided to make him kinda come back.
Right, but a little goes a long way, and it's like we sort of get that, especially if you already know the character. So if you're a fan, you're gonna like this, but at the same time, you're gonna be like, "I've seen it before." That's why when they do this like kind of tonal shift, when
Mhm.
they introduce the Ganucci character, the Ma Ganucci,
Maganucci, yeah.
I didn't know whether or not we were supposed to be taking it seriously, and then it seemed like it was a comedic thing, and then suddenly it was like, "Oh, she's the villain." Like they kept going back and forth with it, which was an interesting choice, to say the least. But her name, the name of the family,
Mhm.
also gave me flashbacks to you remember well, you know Colbert's leaving or
Yeah.
but the Colbert Report back in like 2014 when you could pay to get your name on the small thing underneath. Ganucci sounds a lot like Munchamakuchi.
Okay, yeah, and Leek Madik, I believe, is
Yes,
the other one.
but so Ganucci, I kept on thinking about that when and she's in that wheelchair, and she's obviously, like, the most villainous villain that they can have, and she gives him not even an ultimatum, but sort of an ultimatum because she's like, "You got till 6:47, because that's when you killed my son."
Mhm.
And what does he choose to do with all this time? It's the equivalent of like if some guy drags you off to his island and then he's like, "This is going to be a most dangerous game situation. I'm going to give you 10 minutes to get ahead." And he just stands there because Frank just goes back to
Yeah.
his apartment and has a little existential crisis, which he's already doing all the time. He doesn't tell any of his neighbors that there may be a little bit of commotion to expect. And so I would say he's probably somewhat it's his fault that so many people died.
It just seemed
He
like
could have
that
run away.
it seemed like that apartment was just filled, like, everyone was just out to get him, but I should mention Maganucci, she's in the comics, she was, I
Oh,
believe,
okay.
introduced in 2000, and at least with the way they portrayed her here, she reminded me of, like, an older version of Sophia Falcone from The Penguin. I get she's in a
That's
wheelchair,
interesting.
but it seemed like she was trying to go with the same kind of, like,
I'll tell
intimidation.
you why that's interesting. I was gonna wait till the end, but I think that the Punisher would be so cool if there was a somehow DC Marvel crossover, Penguin versus Punisher.
Hey, he's done
There's I mean, Colin Farrell's Penguin is so he doesn't give a crap either, and, like, that those 2 attitudes facing off, like, Frank would have no problem trying to kill him, Penguin would have no problem dealing with a character like Frank. That would be pretty massive, I
I
think.
would disagree with you if it wasn't for the fact that he's crossed over with Katie Keene. He even fought Eminem in one of the comics. He even did Archie. So yeah, why not?
Yeah, I mean, you're saying they would need, like, Deadpool or someone to pull him
Yeah.
out and put him into another universe or something, but what other yeah, so 6:47, that's the
Mhm.
time she gives, and, it's so random unless you tell me there's, like, a reference
I
there that, like,
don't
his
believe
kids
so.
died at 6:47 too, but, like, it's also 6:7, I don't know if that's it was for the kids? Maybe that's what it is?
This TVMA special was for the
I mean, some
kids.
of them have to be, like, 13, 14 enjoying this,
I
but
mean, here's the thing, it totally utilized it to the max, though. If you go in expecting Daredevil violence, you will be severely like,
it is strange,
say,
isn't it?
like
So, like, when the actual violence hits and the apartment goes on fire and he runs out there and he starts fighting, it's cool, yes. It's no one-shot thing. It's not
right.
Daredevil season 3 Blindsided, that episode where it's just, like, constant violence and there were some things that kind of pulled me out of it too. So, some people have pointed out that there's some CGI that's visible.
Right, the VFX shot of
I
him flying
was
off the building.
yeah, another is thing they go full hardcore Henry where they show you, like, first player point of view at one point
Yeah.
when they're on the roof, and then he falls onto the school bus, and why is there a school bus in Little Sicily when we've seen so how it's like, why is there an operating coffee shop in Little Sicily? It's people are going about their day talking about movie tickets, and at the same time, within the same breath, people are, like, fighting for and stabbing each other's necks out with pens.
I think, and this is maybe a little obvious, but it's for the contrast where it's like school is supposed to be seen as innocent. The Dark Knight did the same
Yes,
exact thing with the bank robbery, like
but the bank robbery was, like, in the middle of New York City where everything's operating the way it should. There's this criminal organization that has suddenly taken over.
you mean middle of Gotham, not your New York City.
True. Thank you. But in this, it's like you clearly have this family and all these felons like running around crazy. I would not be sending my kid to school in that situation, let alone have enough kids around that area where a school bus would be just next to an apartment building. Usually, school buses are parked in like lots with a bunch of other school
Mhm.
buses. So there's just an odd place for it to be. Another thing is that all the villains, if they don't have guns, they have baseball bats.
Yeah, well, that was, I think, a reference to that's
Like the
even
comics?
the pedophile thing that I said in season 2, episode 3, when the Punisher beats the, like, store manager who had been selling that
Right,
stuff,
but
he
are they
beats him
just
with a
all
baseball bat.
Negan fans? Like, what is up with the amount of baseball
That's
bats?
that's kinda why I was mentioning A Clockwork Orange because and it's been a couple years since I've
Yes, the
seen it,
kids had
but I don't
but
think there was any guns, I think it was
weren't they
just
children?
yeah, well, they were supposed to be teens, I think.
Yes,
They're
but
yeah.
they couldn't get a hand on, like, guns.
Right.
Well, it's like you're going after the Punisher, and you're saying, "Well, I'm gonna stack up with with the baseball
It
bat."
is true because it's like there's not one body that dies in this episode that doesn't have at least 3 bullets in it just from, Frank himself.
Or just yeah, him stabbing the guy with the pen in the last scene was, like, the
Yeah.
most gross thing I've seen. But, yeah, and then I did like the shot where right before that, he was ignoring everything around the city, you could see
Mhm.
everything blowing up behind him. Like, I thought that that was really well done.
I didn't catch it, I had to go to the internet for this, but do you remember what he says to his daughter before, like, her hallucination at the graveyard before she kind of
Thought it was like, "Wait,
disappears?
like, don't go anywhere."
It is, and that is supposed to be probably from the most famous scene of The Punisher because it was memed so much, the "No, no, no, wait, wait, wait" thing that was supposed to
No
be
Kal-El?
No, I'm talking about episode
I
6 of The
get it.
Punisher, yeah, it was supposed to be a reference to that, but
Right. Maybe you can tell me this because at the end of the episode, he survived and it seems like everything has cooled down somehow, the assassins. But, like, where did the bounty go? Because we
That's yeah, no,
saw
that's a big question.
Maganucci just leave, but that doesn't mean that she took the bounty away. She could still say, "Hey, every single assassin out there, there's like $3 million on his head. Go out and get him." And he acted like, "Hey, it's over.
Yeah,
I survived the wave, and now I'm just gonna." He's not even hiding his identity. He's gone back into the Punisher suit,
yeah.
and I guess he's just through intimidation, stopping people from attacking. That was probably the biggest plot hole I saw in the whole thing, because it's like in John Wick, it wasn't like after he killed what 100 bad guys, they just stopped.
I know, and I like how the poster of this, like, depending on which poster you've seen, is also just the final shot of
Yeah,
this
maybe if he
special.
killed her, that would make sense, right? But they left that door open.
There was so much that seemed rushed. I felt like this was way too short because it's really 40 minutes because the last 10 minutes are special, and I would have liked something that was maybe like 90 minutes,
I was
you
gonna
know?
give him flack about the same thing, but then I thought, well, the alternative would probably have been like 6 episodes, 30-minute animated series, where you just bring back Frank Castle to be
Well, I mean, I wouldn't have even minded had they done a theatrical release with the Punisher. Like, even Thomas Jane has said that he wants to play a villain
well,
against the
that's
Punisher, and I
yeah.
feel like that would have been, like, really cool or something like
I don't
that, you
know if
know?
Feige wants to invest that much, and, under the assumption that, like, he does it with Deadpool, but that's
Right.
because it, like, has already shown its own thing. But you saw how hard Ryan Reynolds had to fight for that, like, and he was a movie star. Jon Bernthal is a movie star, but not on the same level. I
I
don't
mean,
think he
had
can.
he not done Born Again, this special might not have been made because Jon Bernthal himself was the reason it was made. He came up with the idea while they were filming the first season of it, so he
Yeah, he
does
has
have
sway,
sway.
but, that doesn't mean you can make your own $500 million movie with it, or like 200, like, this was produced under the same banner as, like, Echo and stuff, right? Like, it
Right.
was one of
Yeah.
those type of specials, so it didn't even get a full series order with that. Who do you think the best crossover would be from The Bear into this, now that you've, like, that's another thing I did wanna bring up really quickly. So, it's so weird that The Bear also had that special that came out
That
right at the
surprise
same time,
special. Yeah.
and he is playing a very mentally ill character there too.
Uh-huh.
His Michael character is almost similar to Frank in the fact that he's, like, so
I
depressed.
mean, these specials are not comparable, but you're right. It came
But
out with Gary on the same day that Daredevil Born Again Season 2 finale
and
came
the
out.
person who plays his cousin in that was obviously the guy from the first 2 seasons of the Netflix series.
And, Fantastic Four: The Thing.
Yes, but,
Even
like,
Moss
he
Backrack.
worked with directly Jon
I d
Bernthal
I
in that.
don't I don't think he's in the 2nd season. I think he's only in the 1st season because I believe they, like, wrapped up his story.
Okay.
But, yeah, no, if you're gonna talk like, there's no way that was a coincidence
I
with
think Abby
the way
Elliott
that
would make a good, addition to the Punisher cast. Like, she could fight Karen for the ghost version that he sees her.
or Gillian Jacobs just randomly showing up.
Yeah. But that's about it. What is this setting up? You said that obviously Doomsday is coming,
Right.
but what is it setting up for the Punisher's journey? Is he going to one day find some solace? Is he going to marry Karen? Like, what's gonna happen?
Are you shipping them?
No, I'm just asking, like, I don't even know what happens in the comics. Does he just die a lonely old man
Well, I know that this is based on one, like, kinda limited comic, like a 12-issue limited
that
series
they have
called
milked?
which is so funny because it's called Welcome Back, Frank, and again, this is called One Last Kill, so it's, like, almost the, themes of both those titles kind of contradict each other.
Yeah.
But
Who do you think has a bigger chip on their shoulder? Is it, there's like the Hush movie or something coming out? What, or not the Hush? What is the next DC movie where the guy's in like bandages?
oh, Clayface? Is that it?
Clayface. Yeah, it's Clayface.
Yeah,
Clayface or Punisher.
yeah.
Because
Probably
Clayface, it
Cl
looks like they're making very dark too.
Right, I don't know how they're gonna go realistic with Clayface, though, especially since the most I know about him is the Harley Quinn thing, so based off of that, because he seems more powerful, probably
Yeah, I
Clayface.
say Punisher doesn't have a superpower, but at the same time, he got stabbed like with a huge, not blade poker. He got poked really, like it went deep
Yeah,
in. Like he should have infection. The guy has to have some sort of endurance, like super endurance or something. The fact that he can go toe to toe with Daredevil and like all the cops in New York City. It's funny how in Daredevil Born Again he was fighting a ton of cops.
right.
In this, there are no cops. It was like, well, he fights everybody equally, is what it's trying to say.
I think that Jon Bernthal, though, I agree with Thomas Jane, who said that he's perfect for the role, like,
Thomas
when
Jane?
Thomas Jane said that Jon
Oh,
Bernthal
okay.
was perfect for the role, and I was saying I agree with him
Why are they
on
getting
that.
his point of view? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, he says that he was miscast, but I
He
think that,
wasn't
like,
miscast.
whenever the Punisher, like, whenever they're going to come out with anything, with Jon Bernthal as him, I'm always going to be interested, but this also just felt like there was a complete lack of world building, retreading too
Not
much
everything
stuff.
has to have that. It does feel like it was made simply as a nod to the fans, almost like a Kung Fury type thing, but like with less humor, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
So what would you give it?
6.5.
6.5. I'm going to be giving it a 5 out of 10 because I was excited for the special and I left a little disappointed.
But yeah, I'm gonna give it that because it like runs on vibes.
Yeah,
And
very much so. Yeah.
And so I'm fine with that for a 30-minute, 40-minute special. I wouldn't be if this was a full season. If it just continued at this rate, like I would not give it that acceptance.
I
But as just a
remember
one-off, fine.
I
6.5.
remember I saw the pilot, when it came out, and the pilot to The Punisher in, like, 2017, and I was not a fan at all, and it was per your suggestion that I kept watching, and after I watched that full season, I was a big fan, but, like, this kinda reminded me of the pilot where I felt like it was too slow almost despite all the
Oh,
action.
it was so slow because again, he spent a lot of that time just brooding.
Yeah,
And that brooding doesn't go anywhere.
and
He's not,
there's
like you
not an
said, learning to move forward with it. And it's like, okay, almost similar to the Bears thing. When they introduced these characters in the first Netflix series, or when they introduced his character in the Bear, they said a lot by what they didn't say. You
right.
could fill in the gaps. It feels like they're intentionally trying to fill those gaps just for content, and in a way that takes away from what your mind could do on its own.
I could also compare it almost with what we're talking about to Peaky Blinders, where it was like seasons 1 through 5, there was a character named Arthur that was struggling a lot with
His
alcohol.
brother.
And by season 5, he was almost like completely over it. And then season 6, he like started to have an
Well, he
alcohol
fell
problem
back on
again.
the wagon.
And it was like after all that time that they spent showing that he had changed, he really didn't change at all. It got
Mhm.
moderate. This special got moderately positive reviews, 7.5 on IMDb, 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. CBR was probably the most positive, saying it puts John Wick to shame,
No.
and saying that if the Punisher stays on this
Though they are
track,
working on the next John Wick and that's by the stunt dude again, right?
yep, yep.
That's insane that this puts John Wick to shame. They spend the entire time in John Wick trying to one up themselves, and they're saying that this like kind of CGI ridden fight scenes like that puts him to shame.
Yeah,
I don't
and
know.
Inverse called it a disappointment. I think I agree with that the most. And also, the person that composed the music, I find this funny. The next project they're going to be working on is Spider Noir, which is set to come out in like 2 weeks.
Right. They like to use their own people and stuff. Yeah, it is what it is. And it was fun to talk about because again, a lot of impressions and not as much having to like delve deep into what everything meant. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.